Frank, good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah. Good afternoon, mate. I'm good. Yourself?
Good, very good. Appreciate you being here today. Appreciate you carving out some time. I'll be very transparent with you. My intention today is very simple. It's just to kind of utilize your story in the hope that I can help somebody else. Yeah, I appreciate this. And if it's all right with you, we'll just dive on in.
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Amazing. So why don't you kind of start by letting everybody know who you are and what it is that you do?
So I'm Frank, and I'm a coach. So I enable myself a personal development coach. My main focus is helping people grow. I'm not niched down too hard just yet because I'm still figuring out what the perfect type of client for me is.
Mhm.
So I'm working with a vast array of people in different areas, but it does tend to push towards confidence and self-esteem at the moment. That's kind of where I'm getting the best results and the kind of people that are gravitating towards me. So that's what I do right now. And I obviously, thanks to yourself, it's been going a lot better than it was beforehand.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely, man. So, yeah, I mean, let's kind of unpack that a little bit more. Let's kind of dive into, yeah, where you were when you kind of first started working with myself. How were you kind of sabotaging your coaching business? What were you
I
struggling?
just, Part of it was I was procrastinating and I was getting in my own way. I was doing tasks that weren't necessarily beneficial to me and my business, and they weren't serving me. The things I was doing weren't serving me. They were pleasing me, and I was trying to do things the way that I would love them to be done. But sometimes you just got to pull your finger out and do the things you don't want to do. So working with yourself helped me realize what I was doing to get in my own way. But when I was not working with yourself, I was speaking to clients, I was working with people, but it was very sporadic. It wasn't very structured. Client acquisition was a huge issue because it's such a difficult market to infiltrate with lots of other coaches around. And trying to separate myself and put myself into the business side of things, like the coaching side of things, I was enjoying. Things were going well, but as a business owner, it's a completely different kettle of fish because
Mm,
you're not just doing the do. You've got to do the do, and then everything else. It's just bringing on the clients, making sure that they're getting something to make them feel safe and secure in working with yourself. You need to show some level of what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability, not accountability, but like a level of professionalism that to show them that you are going to help them. And obviously working with yourself and the things that you've helped me with through the program, and obviously emulating yourself in some circumstances as well as to how you work with your clientele. That's really helped me to grow and develop as not just a coach but a business owner.
yeah, I appreciate you kind of, yeah, being transparent and vulnerable there because I think there's one thing being a coach, and then there's another thing running a coaching business as a business owner.
Yeah.
I see this happen quite often. Some great coaches, but terrible at running a business. And I feel personally, these academies and schools and certification programs you can join, they do a really great job of giving you kind of the tools to help clients. But in my personal opinion, I don't think they do a good enough job of supporting you with the actual business standpoint, like the client acquisition and things. Would you be inclined to agree there?
Yeah, I really agree. I mean, the way I've kind of described it to my friends who I've spoken to about it, and possibly to yourself at some point, is the whole of the learning the models and how to work with clients. They do touch on business, but it's like that's the theory of your driving exam, and you don't really learn how to drive until you start.
Mhm.
And so the coaching kind of evolves as you go because you get to add your own little personal twist to it. You realize what works. You're not just sticking to a framework, but also the business side of things. They touch on it and they give you the very foundation of what it takes and what you need to do.
Yeah.
But it you need to kind of develop from there because obviously that's the bare minimum of what you should be doing. And it doesn't talk about your own personal sense of your own attitude towards work, really. It doesn't talk about that. It just talks about these are things you should do as a basic. Some of the things I think they say to do is wrong. Like obviously they tell you to niche down immediately. Obviously, how could you possibly know? I know we've gone over this as well.
Mhm.
How could you possibly know what you want to specialize in if you haven't tried these things?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I said I think is the one chooses the wizard. You've got to go out into the world of coaching, find out where you get the best results, what kind of people you work best with, and then your niche kind of develops itself.
Yeah.
And that's been more beneficial for me. By working with a vast array of people, I now have a better idea, still not perfect, is to who gets the best results from me, which in the end is what we want because I want to give people the best version of myself so that I can become a good coach in everyone's eyes, make sure they're getting results, and then build a positive money earning business.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, like you just mentioned then, focusing on building a business because at the end of the day, we all have bills, we need to pay.
Mhm.
But I think ultimately at the beginning, you just focus on becoming better, you focus on becoming a good coach,
Mhm.
you genuinely wholeheartedly are focused on becoming better and becoming a better coach, like you'll already stand out in what is already a saturated market
Yeah.
because there are so many people that just get into coaching because they just think, oh, I can make a load of money. Now, there's nothing wrong with making a load of money from coaching, but if that's kind of the main goal to just make a load of money, yeah, you'll realize that yeah, you're chasing the wrong thing. So yeah, I appreciate you kind of alluding to that because I think anybody watching this will be able to relate, definitely. So I'm curious to know when I know you mentioned then the procrastination piece and things.
Mhm.
What kind of internal problems would you say you were facing? And let me kind of unpack this a little bit more because what I've noticed is, for the most part, people tend to have a personal problem that's kind of showing up in
Mhm.
their business. So, yeah, what internal problems were you facing?
Well, one of the main things with me is I'm very easily distracted. So if I haven't got a set structure and a time to do things, then I just don't do them.
Yeah.
And even now, like I do have a set structure, I have a set time to do things. Things change, but I can look at the list of what I was meant to do that day, and I can go right. I've got this much time left in the working day. I can obviously I've worked for myself. I've got all the time I want, but in order to keep work-life balance, I can look at it and go, these are the things I was meant to do. These things I'm meant to be doing now. Is that more important than what I haven't done?
Hmm.
And I still have it, even if it's not stuck to perfectly, I still have a list of what I should have done that day.
Yeah.
And then I can tackle all of that. So getting out of my own way and not being so easily distracted was one thing, because I do just jump from one task to the other and nothing really got completed.
Hmm.
So having set times to do things meant that one, I was making sure they were done, but two, I wasn't spending loads of time just faffing around. Like, I was talking about mental masturbating. Like I wasn't just taking on information. I was taking on information, putting it into practice because I had a certain amount of time to do it.
Yeah.
And that's something obviously I've passed on to my clients as well. That's been really valuable because I've learned that lesson and I can empathize with their struggle there. But getting out my own way was the main thing. Obviously, there was a point where I was, especially at the start of my coaching, is I was going probably to too many social occasions. I was spreading myself too thin. Because when
Hmm.
you're trying to run a business that you're trying to grow, I mean, takeoff requires the most energy. You know what I mean? Takeoff requires the most fuel. So you need to put all your energy in at the start. And I was probably putting my energy into too many places. Still to the case, I mean, I still socialize quite a bit. I still like to be the person that's there for their friends on big days.
Hmm.
But I've learned the power of saying no as well and really putting myself first.
Yeah. Yeah, the mental masturbation piece is it's quite interesting. And we have a term inside the program, it's like perceived productivity. It's
Yeah.
like confusing motion with
Yeah.
progress. And it's like, oh, well, I changed my Instagram bio. I wrote some ideas of content. Oh, I had a little look at my website and I changed the color there. And all of those things are like, well, okay, well, is that just motion or is
Mhm.
it progress? And for the most
Yeah.
part, yeah, it's motion. So yeah, again, something else that I think, new coaches will be able to relate to. And in order to become great at anything, you need to do a lot of it. And essentially at the beginning of becoming a coach and building your coaching business, that's what you should be focused on coaching people and just becoming better. And it's
Yeah.
very easy to get lost, especially with social media these days. You're pulled from kind of pillar to post. You'll read one thing and they'll be like, oh, you need to do emails. You read something else, it's, oh, you need to do low ticket. You read something else,
Mhm.
and like, you need to be posting 3 times a day. And it's like, okay, now, what do we do? Who do we?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that structure and that accountability piece is really yeah, really important. So I mean you're still actually in the program, but
Mhm.
I'd love it if you could kind of speak on what your experience has been like in the program so far.
Yeah, it's great. The thing about the program is it's a lot of like-minded people. It's a very supportive network of people. So everyone's there to celebrate your victories with you. Everyone else is on board, and everyone's got a similar mindset. It's like obviously talk about the three Ps. I know it's a virtual space, but if you find the right place, you get your people, and that gives you possibilities. And
Mhm.
the place is the is the obviously the app. You know what I mean, where everybody is talking together,
Mhm.
and being there, you have the opportunity to see that other people are growing as well, and it kind of gives you the idea that if you ever feel like an imposter or feel like you can't do it, you see that other people are, and they're just people as well. Because we obviously the group calls, we see each other all the time. We're
Yeah.
having conversations about everyone's progress, and you realize that they're just other people who are trying to get out of their own way, and it is possible. And if everyone's ever feeling down or like, they've had a lackluster week, they can see that that is not just happening to them. So you get to share the ups and the downs with people, and it just makes you feel more human, really, more balanced. And you don't have to kick yourself when things don't go well, and you don't praise yourself too highly when things do go well. You realize that it's just about keeping on the momentum and keeping going. And it's good having a collection of people around you that are doing the same.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I think, one of the things that I've tried to kind of highlight with the program is, to focus on progression rather than
Mm,
perfection. And I am, the first person to admit I'm not perfect,
mm,
and that's why I kind of like to be very vulnerable, very transparent. And, we're all here just trying to improve. There's not one coach or one business owner on the planet right now who knows the answers to every single question. And that's what makes kind of coaching and mentorship and community so powerful, because being surrounded, like you just said, by similar thinking people, you're having a problem, there's a chance that somebody else inside of the program has had that problem and solved it, or is currently having that problem at the moment. So again, it kind of humanizes the whole process.
yeah.
I'm curious to know kind of I know of course we have the online portal, have the group calls, have kind of the client success coach and the
Mm.
access to me through Slack. Was there any kind of any particular deliverable that you preferred or one that you found the most value in?
I really do like the group calls because obviously it's always something new. It's always a new lesson that you can put into practice. And obviously, being a coach, it not only gives me the opportunity to like learn and grow from it, but it gives me material to then use with my clients as well. And it gets you to look at it from a different perspective because obviously we're always reading and like trying to upskill ourselves and get better. But when you see it from someone else's perspective and the way that they teach it, it kind of gives you a better idea. Like the turn of phrase. I think one of the turns of phrase that you said to me that I use all the time now is your brain is designed to keep you safe, not happy.
Mhm.
And that's again, that was a better way of saying what I've been saying to my clients. So I started taking that one on as myself. I was like, I've heard this from my coach, and it's what I'm going to put on to you because it
Mhm.
makes perfect sense and it's very easily summarized. So when someone's feeling like anxious and they don't want to do something, I use that phrase quite a lot now, and
Yeah.
it's easily translatable. So having these group calls and the group lessons, obviously everyone's getting to learn this at the same time as well. So
Yeah.
everyone's getting the opportunity to learn and grow, and then you can see other people. And then when someone pipes up saying, "Oh yeah, I've had that problem. I'm doing this," like I say, it's a bit of support, I'd say.
Absolutely.
So the group calls are probably one of our favorite things because that's when you get to share the experience with the most people.
Mm. Yeah, I think, I've just been very transparent with you here when you've mentioned kind of you've taken bits and pieces from the group calls and our one-to-one kind of conversations through
Mm-hmm.
Slack and whatnot. And I love that. I mean, most coaches are maybe be like, oh, no, you shouldn't be doing that. But for me, the reason that the program works so well now is because I remember, I think it was April last year, I spent 6K USD with my own business coach. It was like 4.5 grand at that point. And this guy was doing 50 to 70K every month. And he had over 100 people inside of the community. And when I was
Mm-hmm.
building out my community, I looked at this and I thought, okay, well, what can I learn from my coach here? And
Mm-hmm.
how can I improve on what he's already built? And, I think you having the humility to turn around and say, hey, this is how I utilize it. That's exactly what I did. I literally just found someone who was further ahead than me, who was well further ahead than me, invested in his coaching program, learned from him, and then decided, okay, not duplicate. Like I wasn't just duplicating the same, but I was
Mm-hmm.
using it as inspiration. And I thought, okay, well, he's doing this really well. Oh, you know what he hasn't got that I could add is this. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think most coaches would be lying if they said that they haven't used their own coaching programs that they're part of as inspiration for their coaching program. So appreciate the honesty there.
Yeah,
Um,
I was just gonna say one more thing. Obviously, you just touched on then. You obviously do it, don't completely emulate it, doing it your own way. But that's another thing that you've gone through with me. I was pretty nervous about posting things on social media. Um, Especially like some people saying to me, "Oh, you shouldn't swear, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that." And you're like, at the end of the day, they don't do what you do, so be yourself. Like people want to be coached by you, and they'll only know that if they know you. And the people that like you will stick around, and the
yeah.
people that don't will fall by the wayside. But they were never going to be clients anyway.
Mhm.
So it was obviously you said obviously I've used terms of phrase that you've used, but you've also told me to be myself when using them, be be completely genuine as to who I am, and that's why I think many of my clients have came on and stuck around because I was being myself wholeheartedly.
Yeah, absolutely. People don't buy coaching. They buy
Mm.
coaches.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to attract those types of people who are very honest, are very kind of blunt. Maybe they do like to swear every now and then. Maybe
Mm.
they also share similar values in terms of the travel piece, in terms of other things that you value as well. You know, that's the thing is people are often trying to copy other people.
Mhm.
And ironically, it's self-sabotage in of itself because there's nobody else out there that can be Frank Richards. Nobody. And that the world doesn't need another Frank. It doesn't need another Sean. It needs people to be themselves. Because if you are yourself, you are kind of adhering to the core value of integrity, being honest, you'll attract the right people. You'll attract the people that you're supposed to attract. Can you imagine just thinking out loud here? Can you imagine portraying to be this, really polished version of yourself on social media, putting out content, showing up on stories, maybe talking in a different way, pretending to be a version of yourself that you aren't. And then a client signs up, they invest in your coaching program, and then they start working with you like, hang on, this is a different fella. This isn't the guy who I've been speaking to on Instagram. The guy on Instagram doesn't swear. The guy who shows up on stories isn't this blunt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can you see like
Yeah,
it?
it reminds me of when I used to go off to do on LinkedIn during my recruitment days. I
Yeah.
was you had to be a certain type of person, and I obviously that didn't really fly with me. That wasn't my cup of tea. So I tried to be myself still. Sometimes got in trouble, but that's because I wanted people to buy from me. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
And that was the same way I do it now. So yeah, I know what it's like to pretend to be someone else online. It's not easy either.
Yeah, and you're kind of, you're doing yourself a disservice. That's the way I look at it. Like you're doing yourself a disservice because there are people out there that you're going to attract because you are you. And I wouldn't want you or I wouldn't want to attract anybody who kind of likes the idea of a version of me that I am portraying to be.
Mm,
Just feels
yeah,
uncomfortable. So yeah, that's a whole other video in of itself.
yeah.
But yeah, why don't you kind of obviously you just touched on very briefly there, clients stuck around and whatnot. What kind of milestones have you hit now that you kind of have been seeing some results in the program?
Well, the best thing by far was taking on 7 new clients in 7 weeks, just
Yes.
by implementing the practices that you told me and like that we worked on. And it was like, okay, stop doing that, do this, and it worked instantly. And I couldn't believe it at first because obviously clients have been very sporadic and they were coming and going, and sometimes I mean, people weren't sure, and I didn't know how to react in those instances as to what to do when they're not sure and how to speak to them on the phone. It was all the minor details paired with the right actions, and once put into practice, it was like 7 clients in 7 weeks was fantastic. I was like, okay, another one. And I was getting to the point where I can say, maybe we'll be able to say no to some people soon if they're not right for me. And I did to a couple of people. I said, I don't think that we're going to be right for each other based on what you want. And it was really empowering to be able to be there, because when you're not there, you feel like you have to take everyone on, which is not something you should do. Um, but once you start getting a bit of rhythm, bit of flow, it makes you not only it makes you not only happy, but makes you a better coach
Yeah.
because you're selecting the right people. So I took on 7 clients in 7 weeks that were great clients for me, and I was a great coach for them, and that was really, really beneficial.
Nice man. That's awesome. Isn't it interesting as well? Like you just said, I just did what you said and it worked.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And it was as simple as that. It was just like, just do as you're told, Frank. And
And
then
and
it was.
this is it again, like, and I say this with love, but for the most part, kind of if people just stick to the plan, there's a reason why, we've been able to help over 100 clients over the last year alone. And it's
Yeah,
because, okay, here's what's worked for me. When I was at your stage, this is what I would do. Then when you get to this stage, this is what you do. Then when you want to scale, this is what you do. And
yeah,
I literally kind of provide that blueprint for everybody. And we can only provide the blueprints. We can't force people to stick to it. But as I said, when you stuck to the blueprint, you did, like I just said, you got the results. There's other people as well. I remember there was a gentleman, Amit, and I think it was this time last year actually. I think we had our first call October 1st, and then
mm,
I think within 6 weeks, I think he had like 13 clients. And
mm.
he was just like, Sean, I just did what you said. I was like, yeah, but how did you do it? And he was like, I just did as I was told.
Yeah. But that's
So
the beauty of it. It's the beauty of the fact that someone's working with someone that's been there and done
mm,
it. You know what I mean? And see what works. Because now you know what works, and then we can skip the stages of figuring out what doesn't.
absolutely. I think I feel strongly about this. And I've said this in the past, I've said it to you, and I say it to other people. I think as coaches, we need to be working with other coaches. We cannot kind of say that we believe in the power of coaching if we don't have a coach ourselves, because I just feel that's quite hypocritical, you
Yeah,
know. And one of the ways that you can collapse time and shortcut the route to success is to just hire somebody out there who's done it, who's been there, who's solved the problems, who's seen it. Yes, of course, you'll have to kind of pay in money, but the
mm,
alternative of that is you could probably figure out everything that I have gone through with you, but you would have probably just paid in time
yeah,
instead of money. It might have took you 18 months instead of 3 months. It might
yeah,
have took you maybe 12 months instead of 3 months. But yeah, I mean, you can either pay for things in time or money. You just get to decide how you want to make that payment, but inevitably you will pay it.
yeah.
So, with that being said, let me kind of let me ask you this. What advice would you give to other coaches or other people that perhaps are on the fence about working with us and joining the program?
I think for me, I'd say just take action now because if you wait a while, you might wait like 2, 3 months down the line and then you join, you'll kick yourself for not having joined sooner because you'll realize how much where you could have been now if you'd taken the action then.
Hmm.
Um, everyone's cautious of of the unknown and taking a risk and things like that. But I think the best things in life sit on the other side of caution. So if you don't take the risk, you'll never find out. And obviously, you've got enough testimonials out there to let people know that
Hmm.
it's worked for them. And that was what kind of won me over was the testimonials of other people. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take action because I'd rather find out now if it works, and it did for me. So I always like just take the action as soon as you can because you want to be where you want to be as soon as possible. And I don't know why you delay it through fear.
Hmm. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Again, as I said, I absolutely kind of said to you before the call, I love doing these because, you know, ultimately I am biased. I think what we've built is great. The community, the portal, the program, everything. I think it's great. But this is kind of the determinant factor, when we jump on these video testimonials and people talk about the success that they've had, and my hope, sincerely, is that, over the next few months as well, we continue to give you the tools, the resources, and all of the kind of training that you need that you can
Mm,
utilize for the next few years, right?
yeah.
And you can just continue to bring in clients when you need them. Of course, when you get to different levels in your business, there's going to be different problems for you to solve. But my goal for you and every other person is to better equip them with, as I said, the tools, the training, the resources, so that they have what they need to solve those problems. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much. Let me ask you this. I never normally ask this question, but is there anything else that you want to add? Anything else that you think needs saying that perhaps you haven't said? What you want?
Um, I put me on the spot. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I just say that honestly, if anyone's considering it, they just needs to make a go of it because I wouldn't be where I am now with my coaching business if I hadn't gone and joined the program. Because without working with you and like obviously like, taking on that knowledge, I'd have been miles behind. And what might have happened then is I might have lost all motivation and belief that it was possible. Um, the sooner you get results, the sooner you see that it's doable. And it's the same with my coaching my clients. When you see tangible proof and statistics, that you can't scrub it away. You can't see it any other way. When you can see obvious improvements in pounds and pence sometimes, but then because in yourself it's harder to see,
Mhm.
then you've just got to okay, well it worked, and like you just got to say, well, it was an absolute brilliant choice that I made. Um, so that's the way I look at it. Is you just gotta do it, and I'm so glad that I did. So if anyone's debating it, I'd say just put your finger out and do it because otherwise you'll kick yourself later down the line.
Amazing. Thanks very
Yeah.
much for your time, Frank. Appreciate it.
No worries, mate.
Cheers.